Happy Wednesday. Welcome to the Scoop Order. Humongous commitment edition. Brock Boyd from Southlake Carroll, Texas is in the books for Brian Hartline, a 4-star plus receiver who is a kid who is not pigeonholed as just a slot guy. Again, he's a white wide receiver at Ohio State, so people think he's kind of middle of the field guy. It's like, no, this guy's a burner. He's a monster. Talked to someone who's very close to him, called him Adam Thielen 2.0. He's a multiple time Pro Bowler. Monster for the Minnesota Vikings, Carolina Panthers. That's what this kid compares to. So huge get for Brian Hartline. We're going to break down his tape, talk a little bit about what he brings to the table as we get into some of the summer recruiting season. As always, if you guys enjoy our content, please leave us a like, click subscribe, also click that little alert bell. Again, I appreciate you guys that are a huge part of this show, sharing the show, sending it to your friends, family, everybody that loves Ohio State football. We appreciate that. If you guys want to help us out in a huge way, please give us a follow and a subscribe on Apple Podcasts. Super easy to do, completely free. It takes about 8 seconds, and you guys can do it and really help us out in a huge way. So we appreciate you guys as always. But I'm going to get into this right now with my good friend at Nevadabuck. Nevada, kind of a surprise commitment. This is a kid that I think a lot of Ohio State fans maybe weren't super familiar with, but you pull a kid from Texas who is a kid who is super, he's got a lot of edge to him, plays very hard, talks a lot of trash, is a kid who is not shy at all. But what are your initial thoughts when you saw Brian Hartline took a commitment from Brock Boyd, who flipped from Texas Christian, TCU?
Well, this is a guy you and I have been talking about for months, and I think for Ohio State fans, I'm not. I think, look, let's just kind of talk about the gorilla in the room. When people see white wide receiver, there's a certain connotation that comes along with it. Like you think possession guy, you think slot guy, you think Dane Sonsenbacher or whatever it would be, and that's not what this guy is. This guy is a sub 22 200-meter guy. He's got legit speed. Plays on the outside for Southlake Carroll. Southlake Carroll obviously is a monster down there in Texas football. As you said, this is a guy that plays with a lot of swagger, with a lot of confidence. Goes out in the field, can take it over the middle, can burn it over the top, take it outside. But Hartline's really excited about this guy. He really likes him, sees a lot of himself in him. And look, and if we could get a guy that was as productive as Brian Hartline was at Ohio State, and then on to the NFL, we'd all take that. And I think this is a guy that was a 4-star receiver, but he's a guy that Brian Hartline is offering in April. So that should all that needs to tell you about what Ohio State thinks about him, what Brian Hartline thinks about him. I mean, Brian Hartline is the hottest recruiter in all of college football. Ohio State is the hottest brand in all of college football, and they're taking this guy in April. So you can do your own little internal recruiting rankings regarding that, but this is not a last minute reach because Brian doesn't have anybody to bring in, or Brian's panicking because we don't have enough quality wide receivers in the room. This is a guy that he wanted. This is a guy that he coveted, and he got him. So, like I said, you and I have been talking about him for a while. We've been looking at the tape. We've been, I've been hoping that he'd be part of this class because I think guys like this, he comes in with a giant chip on his shoulder. Wants to kind of make it to the league. He wants to play under Brian Hartline. Wanted to be a Buckeye, and now he is. And I just think, I think he's going to be great. And I think for Ohio State, he brings a skill set. Not saying that they don't have in the room, but he's another talented guy that's going to work really, really hard. It isn't going to be out muscled by anybody. Isn't going to be outsped by anybody. And I think he's going to be a terrific add to the Ohio State receiving room in 2026 and beyond.
Well, I talked to some impeccable sources at Southlake Carroll about this kid, and his oldest brother was Quinn's #1 receiver at Southlake Carroll, and this is a family that is very successful. Mom and dad work at the school. Dad's a tight ends coach for the Southlake Carroll Dragons. So I just flat out asked, I was like, what is his ceiling? What is his potential? What is his reach? And very, very productive receiver. Brian Hartline. Kind of beyond thrilled to get a kid like this who's tough as nails, and he plays the position at a very high level. He's very aggressive, plays super high level football in Texas in high school, and you know, not to be like too forthcoming, but he doesn't act like he's some demure, scared man. I hope I can make it Ohio State type kid. He's a I was told he could be the biggest trash talker in the history of Southlake Carroll. So, and again, they play Duncanville and they play all the big monster schools down there. They play some of the monsters, and he's not scared of any of them. And he is a trash talking guy, which is great. And he's not scared of anything, and he's aggressive and tough. And honestly, he's a lot like Brian Hartline. Like Brian Hartline is a guy that, when you see the token white wide receiver, you think that all of a sudden he's going to go in the slot and work versus a Sam linebacker and work versus a nickel back and be able to win inside. But Brian was an outside receiver. I mean, he's tall, lean, quick. A guy that could win in coverage versus very good corners, and that's kind of what this kid is. He is not your token. Put him, shorter guy, put him in the slot, short area space. This kid's he's a long strider, excellent track athlete, and hyper competitive. So he sounds honestly like a lot like Brian Hartline. I think he's in high school, obviously much more accomplished, much better than Brian was. But I think that's something that maybe made Brian go on him this early. Because again, Brian Hartline doesn't have to take. Again, this is like Leonardo DiCaprio taking a commitment from the girl in the club at 8 p.m. When he could sit there till 2 a.m. and get the whole lay of the land and see who walks in the building. Like Brian doesn't have to sit there and, well, you just walked in and we better take you or else we won't be able to fill this room up. Brian has the pick of the litter every year because these kids know if Brian goes on them, it's the keys to riches. It's the road to development, success, really, really competitive room, great culture. So for Brian to take this kid this early, it tells me all I need to know. Again, this is a lot like Ryan Day when Ryan is, evaluating quarterbacks or getting in the portal or whatever he does. Like, when Ryan moves, I just follow his lead because I mean, Ryan Day's forgotten more about quarterback development and quarterback evaluations than I'll ever know. So I just follow his lead. When Brian Hartline goes on a receiver, I follow his lead, and I think that it's especially telling that he took a kid this early from Southlake Carroll. But I'm excited about him. Like I said, we got his tape going. I think he's going to be a monster, and I think Brian obviously really knows what he's doing. Nevada, any other thoughts on this, and any other comparisons you want to make? Again, Dane was kind of a slot monster when he was here in 2010, but for like an outside monster receiver, I'm not sure this kid reminds me of. But do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, again, Adam Thielen was, certainly a good comp. Cooper Cup. I mean, this is a guy that can go up and get it. What I'm always looking for when I'm looking at wide receivers in high school, because it's so hard to tell, because all the kids that are recruited look good. And the thing that I've looked for over the years is he a guy that's just running by little kids out there, or is this a guy that's competing, going up and winning balls? Winning in coverage, winning against quality competition, and that's and is he productive? And at Southlake Carroll, they play in the highest division of Texas football. They're one of the preeminent monsters. There's a ton of expectations that come with playing at Southlake Carroll, the tradition of that school, and this is the kid that they rank amongst the best, if not the best, wide receivers to ever come through there. So for Ohio State to go down into Texas again, get a Southlake Carroll kid, bring him to Ohio State. I'm excited about it. I think kids like this, they don't come along that often where you've got a kid like that, where you've got an inside track to get them. And, his brother was, the number one wide receiver for Quinn when he was there. And so this guy's been brought up seeing it. He knows how to get it done. Like I said, his dad coaches there. So, I mean, this guy, he just checks every box that you want. If you want somebody who's going to play with a high intellect, going to be strong, going to be fast, going to be ferocious, going to be a great blocker, going to be a great special teams player. This is what you're getting. So yeah, no, I'm excited about it. This one, like I said, this one's been kind of in the back of our minds for a little bit. You've got some great Southlake Carroll contacts. And I know we've been talking to some guys in the agent community that have been really singing this kid's praises. But I wasn't sure if Ohio State, if the offer was a committable offer, if they were really going to go on it, because you look at the guys that Ohio State's in on at wide receiver right now, and it's crazy. I mean, you look at you've got Ricketts, you've got Chris Henry, you've got Chris Henry's teammate out there. I mean, you've got Ohio State's in on guy upon guy upon guy, and I'm not saying this is the guy that Brian Hartline wanted the most, but this is a top of the list guy for Brian, for Ryan Day, and for the OSU offense, and they got him. So big day for Ohio State. Really, really good get. A guy that look, I'm excited about every single commitment, but there's certain ones that you just get a feeling that they're going to be uber productive, and I would bet just about anything this kid is going to be uber productive at Ohio State.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, again, I think that it speaks volumes about the class of Quinn Ewers and the Ewers family. Because again, I'm sure that they asked, because again, this is a very tight community. Southlake Carroll's, it's a very affluent, very smart, very close knit community. And again, when Quinn Ewers, his number one receiver, was his older brother, I'm sure that there were conversations between the Ewers family and his family that said, "Hey, how was your experience at Ohio State?" And when the Ewers family says they were nothing but class, nothing but excellent, nothing but just great to be there, amazing program. It kind of stamps it. It shows how classy that Quinn Ewers and his family are. Because again, this is something that when you're a Texas kid, and again, not many Texas kids are dreaming of being Ohio State Buckeyes. They dream of being Texas Longhorns, Aggies, whatever. But to stamp it and have him come here, it shows a lot of class with the Ewers family. But this is a kid that, again, I think Brian Hartline knows that you get Chris Henry Jr., you get this kid, and then it's just, let's go get Caden Dixon-Wyatt, because Caden Dixon-Wyatt is in my opinion, I think he's the best receiver in the entire country. I'd take him over ahead of Chris Henry Jr., who's already in the boat. But Caden Dixon-Wyatt is a super freak. He is a Garrett Wilson clone, a agile guy, and so when you already have Chris Henry on matter day, in California, let's go get Caden Dixon-Wyatt, because Caden Dixon-Wyatt is that guy. So I think that when you've got two guys in hand, committed, and then you can go focus on the best receiver remaining on the board in Caden Dixon-Wyatt, and again, not just focus your attention, but focus your NIL money. Let's be serious. Again, there's a reason you take BP Miller, who's an Ohio kid from Ontario. It's because he's not going to cost a lot, and you're kind of saving it up for this next year. And obviously, we've got Quincy Porter, who's fantastic, and we've got Mylan Graham, fantastic. But you want to go after Caden Dixon-Wyatt. He's a guy that's a difference maker. I think he's the best receiver in the country, and I also think Ohio State's going to get him. I think that there's this thirst right now where, again, as much as kids want to chase cheap money, or they want to be, penny wise, dollar foolish, going to Ohio State, working with Brian Hartline, doing his drills, and honestly, the thing about it now is, like, you don't need Brian. I mean, Brian is ultra important to the room. He's coordinator now. But I think that just, if I'm one of these young receivers and I can just be around JJ for a year, if you're around Jeremiah Smith for his junior year and you're a freshman like Chris Henry Jr. and Caden Dixon-Wyatt, then you're going to know what it takes to be a pro and to be a high level pro. And again, when these receivers are getting, like Jamar Chase got a $40 million, average value per year extension. I mean, what's JJ's number going to be in 7 years when he re-ups and he's doing his second deal in the NFL? It's going to be probably $60 million. So why would you not follow that to good graces and to the level you want to get to? But I love this, and again, I love that when we get to build this class, and I always applaud these kids, and it doesn't always work out. There's some kids that commit early and it doesn't work out. They get over recruited and they take better players, whatever. But the kids that commit early that can help build the class, I always have a lot of deference to, because I think it's important. I think that And again, I was, an anomaly because I was a very late bloomer and I was a guy that got offered in December of my senior year, where most of these kids would have been already early enrolling and doing whatever. But I think that it's important that if you can help these guys and help build the class and help gather momentum and get to know your teammates, I think that's excellent. And I think this is going to be a kid that'll be a huge help. And again, when the kid's ultra competitive and he's confident in his abilities, like this kid might help us get Caden Dixon White along with Chris Henry Jr. and say, hey, show up, and let's see what's good. So again, I love that kind of kid, and I'm super excited about it. Nevada, any other thoughts? And we can dig into some super chats.
Well, no, I think your point about the Ewers family is an excellent one because, we talked about it, about how he left here and how there was a story planted about him and demanding NIL money and starting that Austin Ward put out, and then he had to go back and retract after it. And that was not like the best situation. And so for them, again, I've always liked the Ewers family. I always thought that they've handled that from a very classy standpoint. And Quinn always has a soft spot for Ohio State in his heart. I know he does. So this, just like you said, this is just more evidence that they're saying nice things. They're saying positive things about the program. Because you're right. If you've ever been down to Southlake Carroll, it's a very close knit community, and the Boyd family is very close with the Ewers family. And so, again, kudos to Quinn Ewers and those guys for doing that. Now, moving on to another topic, I don't want to move to super chats without going to this. I want your take on this. I know that you have been a big advocate for Shedeur Sanders to have his number retired there at Colorado. You're a big Colorado Buffalo type of guy. And the news came through today that they are officially retiring his number, him and Travis Hunter, already, 4 months after they're done playing football at Colorado. What are your thoughts on the great Shedeur Sanders having his number retired at Colorado? Will we ever see another college quarterback quite like him? And do you think they waited too long to retire? Do you think they should have retired it back in February, or do you think the timing is right now?
I mean, Troy Smith won the Heisman in 2006, and I don't think we retired his jersey until like 2012 or 13. So, I mean, and he was the best player in football. And we were, again, I hate a lot of things about life, but I hate the fact that Troy Smith pays a penance for us being terrible versus Florida. Because Troy should be regarded as like a shoe-in Mount Rushmore guy like Orlando Pace and Archie Griffin, because Troy was like not just a killer on the field. I mean, he was Freddy Krueger, Michael Myers. Like, he was all of the terrors of the night when he was the quarterback at Ohio State, because he kicked the crap out of everybody that we went against, and he was a monster. And he had to wait like 6 or 7 years. So again, I get that Deion's there. And again, I told you, and I said this, I think yesterday when I was talking about how, Kim's parents, Tony Telesmanic and Connie Telesmanic, lived in Boulder. So every year, and her dad, who is very, very fortunate, very, very well off, razor sharp, one of my heroes, one of my favorite people in the world, he literally would buy Colorado season tickets, very, very good seats, 50-yard line behind the bench to support the program, because like nobody went to the games and they sucked. So we would go to one game a year, and I remarked how I said, well, it's amazing when you look up at their press box, they've got the numbers of the people that they've retired, and Nate Solder and a bunch of guys that were Jordan Dyes on, like nice players in college, and guys that were surely first or second round picks in the NFL, but none of those guys were Pro Bowlers. None of those guys were NFL Hall of Famers. None of those guys had anywhere near the accolades that some of the guys at Ohio State have. So I always thought it was funny that they retired their numbers. I was like, well, those guys, like, I played with Jordan's eyes on in Detroit, and he was just absolute trash. Absolutely. And again, very nice kid. But I mean, he was like a second round pick and was one of the worst players ever. He wasn't as good as James or Marcus Freeman or Larry Grant, or let alone AJ Hawk and Schlegel and those guys. But Shedeur getting his number retired is, they're just placating to Deion because he wants to make a big splash. And again, Deion is a genius marketer, because he's like, instead of these two guys that are going to be top 15-ish picks going to Green Bay for the draft, like Travis Hunter and Deion, he's going to do it in Boulder. So again, it gives them a little bit of leverage to get their numbers retired. Say, hey, we're going to do the ceremony here. We'll do it in the arena. And when Travis Hunter gets picked by the Browns at 2, then away we go. And when Shador goes to the Giants at 4, away we go. It shines a bigger spotlight on Boulder, and I'm sure they'll have ESPN and NFL Network there so they can get all the reaction. But I don't know. I think Shador Sanders is the most obvious bust pick that I've ever seen in the NFL. And again, I love Deion. I think Deion's, obviously the greatest corner that's ever lived. He might be the best defensive player that's ever lived, or in the top 3. But Shador has lived a very charmed life and has driven a Rolls Royce since he's a freshman. And I don't know if I want that out of my quarterback. Like I just don't think if Shador goes to the Browns, for instance, who's your pick at 2, like would he be really that despondent if we lost or we weren't good, or is it just, hey, I can just go make another podcast and make another couple $1,000,000 and away we go? I don't know. So again, I want my quarterback to be, honestly, like Will Howard or like Lamar Jackson or like some of these guys that are just absolute animals at work and are just obsessed with the game and obsessed with greatness. And I think Shador's been around greatness and he's good, but I think that something that turns me off in a dramatic way with him is that he loves to blame his teammates when things don't go well. He hates his offensive line. And I think if you go to a bad team that has a bad line, it's going to be curtains real quick. So just my opinion. Nevada, your thoughts on Shador, who I think stings?
Yeah, well, I mean, they've only got 4 guys in their Hall of Fame with retired numbers prior to this: Byron White, Joe Romig, Bobby Anderson, and Rashawn Salam. And all 4 of those guys are in the College Football Hall of Fame. Salam obviously won the Heisman Trophy. So, like, I don't understand what on earth should, I mean, Travis Hunter wins the Heisman, retire the number. I get it. But Shador Sanders, are you kidding me? I mean, I'm not even sure he should be in the Hall of Fame of Colorado football, let alone like a retired number. I mean, I just think it's just crazy. I just don't even have words to describe how crazy I think the whole thing with Dion at Colorado, it's great and it's a neat little story. But Shador Sanders was 13-12. Like, you talk about, like, Troy Smith being tarred because he lost a game or whatever. Shador Sanders was 13-12 in his 2 years at Colorado, and that merits a retired number. I mean, I know their football's been bad, but they did win a national championship. And so in my lifetime, they won a national championship. So, I mean, I don't know. I think it's ridiculous. I think it's more of the Sanders clown show that he's kind of brought on there to Colorado. And Shador is just I mean, the other brother is the guy being bankrupted for assaulting a guy and then leaving and doing that. And Shador just seems like he's got bust written all over him in the NFL. So I don't know. I look at all the great Ohio State players, and you look at the numbers that Shador Sanders put up this year playing Colorado and Colorado's schedule, which is nothing. You look at Will Howard, and Will Howard's never going to sniff anything. He's never going to sniff the Ring of Honor or retired numbers, and he's a freaking national champion quarterback at Ohio State. And but it just kind of comes with, and this guy's going to have his number retired 3 months after playing football at Colorado. So make it make sense to me, because it just doesn't. And I think it's an embarrassment. And I'm embarrassed for Colorado football doing it. And I know a lot of people around the program, and they're embarrassed as well. So it's kind of a joke.
Yeah, I mean, like the standard is just way different. Like again, like you look at Ohio State, like we haven't retired Orlando Pace's number, and he had the best college career in the history of linemen. I mean, he was 3 and out, first overall pick, 2 Outland trophies, Lombardi trophy, and I mean, they just don't put his number up. They distribute 75, and that's fine with Carson. I love Carson to death, but nobody should ever wear 75 again after Orlando. But that's just kind of It's where we're at in the world, and it's a different beast. All right, got some super chats rolling. All right, Gio did it. Thanks for thanks for the deuce. He says, "How about Doug Donnelly, or am I dating myself?" Nevada, your thoughts on our new commitment being like Doug Donnelly?
Well, I mean, White Lightning, one of my favorite players growing up. Well, I was a big Art Schleicher guy growing up. Art Schleicher was one of my favorite players growing up. And obviously throwing to number 47 there when we hadn't really, he was one of the first receivers that I remember that we kind of introduced the forward pass with. And yeah, I mean, Donnelly had big time speed, man. He could run, but I think this kid's a little taller, a little bit rangier than Doug. But yeah, if he can be as good as White Lightning, yeah, we'll certainly all be happy with that for sure.
Yeah, I agree. I think that you want him to be productive, and again, not every receiver that we take in a commitment. And this isn't an indictment on him, but like not every kid we take is going to pan out the way we need him to. But Brian's had a very high hit rate. Again, like Julian, it's like I said last night. Julian Fleming was the highest rated receiver ever. I mean, he was first overall in the thing and 5 stars. And I mean, hell, when we were doing Scoop Dreams during COVID and we were watching simulation Xbox video games, like he was the guy that was the guy. He was the guy like, oh my God, I can't wait to see Julian Fleming or whatever. And you fast forward 4 years and not really the guy anymore. So again, I think it's always interesting to see how that all shakes out. D Sunday, thanks for the 5. Appreciate you, brother. I hope you're doing great. Missed you on Saturday. What do you see as a ceiling for James Peoples? When I see pictures of him, he physically stands out compared to other Buckeyes. Nevada, what is your ceiling on James Peoples?
I mean, that's a great question. That's a great question. I mean, maybe, Pepe Pearson, um, maybe I mean, I'd like to say J.K. Dobbins, but J.K. was pretty darn special. But no, I think he can be a really good running back at Ohio State, and I liked what we've seen. I liked what you see of him in practice. I like the way he approaches the games. I like the way that he's a smart kid, works out hard. Works out hard in the weight room. And when he played last year, I thought he looked great. But yeah, I mean, to me, that's where he's at. I think he's a guy. He's never going to be the career rushing record holder at Ohio State, and I'm not even sure how relevant that is anymore. Anyway, but I think he can be a really productive. I mean, he's got to be our bell cow this year because I like C.J. Donaldson, but I think James Peoples is just a cut above C.J. But C.J. impressed me. C.J.'s lost some weight, a little less stiff. I don't think he's just a goal line guy anymore. I think he's a guy that actually can be productive. But yeah, I'll say Pepe Pearson or J.K. Dobbins as my limits for him.
I literally thought you were kidding when you said Pepe Pearson.
You like Pepe?
I mean, I love Pepe, but I mean, Pepe was an undrafted free agent who had a nice
Yeah,
career. But I mean, when I'm
I mean,
thinking about James Peoples
he's a top 10 guy at Ohio State all time.
in rushing, well, yeah, 'cause he stayed for
Yeah,
4 years. So all the good guys
yeah,
leave after 3, except for Eddie.
yeah.
You
No,
know, I mean,
I understand. I'm just stating facts, man. I'm just saying. I'm not on the. I think that Pepe was a very productive guy. I think James can be a very productive running back at Ohio State. I mean, who do you think he can be?
Antonio Pittman, like 3 and out, third or fourth round pick type ish guy. I
I
think
mean,
that that's more.
To me, Pepe and Pittman are similar, and I love Pittman. I love Pittman. I did love Pittman. Um, yeah, and he's probably and Pittman probably is a cut above. That is another level, but I like Pepe a lot.
Well, I love Pepe. 29 Warriors jersey as a kid, but like he didn't get drafted, never played a snap in the league. And Pitt was a third round pick to the Saints, kind of bounced around the league for a couple years. So I think that that's closer because I think here's my question: when James Peoples is done in a year or 2 years or 3 years, not a year, 2 years or 3 years. If he leaves after his third year or his fourth year, do you think he'll be a draft pick?
Well, but you understand the draft is not the end all be all to me. Okay, like when I'm looking at like Will Howard as a quarterback, or I look at you as a player. You know what I'm saying?
Do
The
you,
fact that you were a seventh round draft pick or sixth round or whatever whenever you were picked, which first of all is amazing, absolutely amazing. But like to me, that's not. I'm not down on things just because guys. I think there's lots of reasons why guys slip in the draft. It could be injury. It could be they had a bad day running. I mean, there's a lot of reasons for that. I just look at it slowly. How did they play at Ohio State? How do I remember them at Ohio State? Were they productive? Were they a good player? Were they whatever it is? And you know that's kind of where I'm at with it. Like I said, the NFL draft. Yeah, I think people like to sometimes throw that out there like that's the ultimate, like, oh, hey, this. But then I look at it and I'm like, hey, JJ McCarthy got drafted in the top 10 in the NFL draft, and I think he stinks. I literally think the guy stinks. And he got a top 10 pick in the draft, and so what do I know?
I just, when I look at baselines, I'm like, well, where do I think he'll get drafted if he leaves after 3 years? Do I think he'll be a top 90 pick and be in the third round? Is he going to be a 120? I mean, the fourth round? Is he going to be top 60 and be like J.K. Dobbins and go in the second round? I don't know. Like, I mean, I think he'll get drafted. So again, when I benchmark, it's just not based on college production. I try to do the college plus the where do I think he'll go. So that's where I'm going to go. I think James Peoples is going to be a very good player. He's got a huge opportunity this year to be the bell cow. So we'll see what kind of numbers he can put up. And he hopefully crushes it. Well, oh, Harash, this is great. Harash sent this to me. I appreciate you being on here every night. Thank you, brother. Nevada, I know there's no shot at this, but I appreciate the question and thank you for the deuce. You think Ryan Day would throw the bag to Dylan Stewart? I mean, he already got the bag from Carolina, so I don't think it's going to happen, but thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I mean, I don't. I don't see that. I mean, I just think, look, there's certain lines that everybody's kind of going up to when it's coming to these players, and um, you know, poaching guys that are there already and have renegotiated and got their thing and done. I mean, I just think that yeah, that's why this whole Nico story is kind of taken on a life of its own because he had his deal, he's there the quarterback, and then he leaves, and now nobody wants to touch him. And I think for college teams right now, while we talk about instantaneous free agency and stuff, I mean, guys actually do have to be in the portal to have these things. So I think with Dylan Stewart, it would be, I mean, there's tampering and then there's tampering. And I'm just not sure if Ohio State wants to get into that yet. They haven't seemed to have had the appetite for doing that quite yet. I mean, they'll put out the sign saying they're open for business and they're looking for players or they're doing whatever it is. But to try to get a guy that's really kind of entrenched on another team, I just think it's a bridge too far for Ohio State. So I don't think they won't be the first mover in that area in my humble opinion.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to get pitched for tampering. I mean, people talk about it, they know it happens, but you don't have like some sort of evidence. And this is already kind of, bantered about a little bit in January, but I just don't think that, for one, I think South Carolina's got serious money, and I think that they're going to pay this kid, and he's already gotten paid. So, I mean, he already switched, he already picked South Carolina coming out of high school. So I don't think that our bag would have gotten that much bigger, but he is a monster, and I would pay a enormous amount of money to get him on our team, but I still think it's never going to happen. D7 thanks for the 5. When a player wants more money, how does the process work? Would it be an agent to Mark Bantoni? Then Mark drafts a decision for Ryan to sign off on it. I think it's something close to that. I know that Mark, it's interesting because Mark got a huge bump in his salary, which again, I think he deserves because his role is dramatically different because every time anybody does anything ever at Ohio State, when it's in season and a kid's an unexpected starter, is playing well or whatever, there's always overtures to renegotiate, and Mark has to shut it down, facilitate it, honor it, whatever. So I think that if somebody wants more money, you have to figure out who is he, how much more does he want, and is he worth it? Is it going to change him? Is it going to change the room? Is it going to flip the everything on its head. And again, that's why when I knew how much David Sanders Jr. is getting offered, and $2.5 million to go to Tennessee, I was like, well, that's more than I think every tackle on our roster costs. So if you give a kid who's going to be a scout teamer this year a bag of money, that'll upset whoever we have. Now we ended up getting Ethan Onianwa and Philip Daniels for a fraction of that number, and I think Ethan Onianwa is going to be fantastic. I think it's going to be at worst a second round pick next year in the draft. He's a monster, and he had a really nice spring game, so really excited about him. But Nevada, your thoughts? When a player wants more money, how does the process work? Would it be agent to Mark Pantoni? Then Mark drafts decision to Ryan to sign off on? What are your thoughts?
Well, I think it depends. I mean, there's a lot of ways that they communicate that stuff. Pantone certainly is a primary point, but it's not the only one. I mean, it comes through the position coaches, it comes through the coordinators, and sometimes it comes through the head coach, depending on who the agent has the best relationship with. And so, I think these are delicate things because they're not, these players aren't under contract. It's not like in a league where you've got a guy under contract and all the terms are laid out. These NIL deals, by definition, are supposed to be for name, image, and likeness, and um, yeah, that's why there's so much squishiness in them, and that's why so many players are going out there and finding the things that they thought they were going to get, they're not getting, or it's not the way that they thought it was going to be exactly. And so, for Ohio State, it really depends on who's got the best relationship, who's where the conversations come from in the past. But Pantone certainly is a guy that's kind of the tip of the spear in terms of most of the recruiting relationships and the NIL discussions, but it doesn't always go through him. It really just depends player by player.
Agree. General Chrome, thanks for the 5. Savion Hitter canceled his Michigan visit, and the crystal balls are coming in for the Ohio State University. I think that's fake news. I think that their crystal balls come in on this one idiot whose name is James Barrett, has a Twitter account, and he tags like Berm and Whitfong and all these morons in his commitment things where it says me and Berm were putting a crystal ball in for Savion Hitter, and I don't think that's ever real. This guy, like, he kind of like fake acts like he works for recruiting services. So I take it with a grain of salt. Could we get the kid? Sure, of course. I think he's a superstar, 5-star kid. Obviously we've had a lot of incredible tradition over the last 10 years with obviously Ezekiel, JK, then you got Trey and Quinshon are going to be gone in the first 60 picks, first 2 rounds. But the equal signs or the whatever, the crystal balls aren't accurate, I don't think, at this point. Nevada, any thoughts? Savion Hitter canceled his Michigan visit and the crystal balls are coming in. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, look, we're the favorite to get them, but these crystal balls they're worthless.
Yes.
So I hate to break it to you guys, but and this one, like you said, a lot of this stuff comes up from these troll accounts where people they just kind of take a shot because look, they take a shot and there's a chance that Ohio State gets them, a good chance that Ohio State gets them, and then they claim victory and they hope that that provides them with a little bit of credibility, and then they go into the next one and they just keep throwing stuff out there. So um, don't mistake activity for progress. You're seeing a lot of activity. I'm not sure if there's any progress, but I like Ohio State chances. Ohio State likes Ohio State chances. Long way to go on this one. Um, but if you said, "Hey, Nevada, gun to your head, who do you think he's going to?" I think he's going to be a Buckeye, and he's not going to be a Wolverine. So that makes me happy.
Yeah, I agree. And that's where we're at. Chad Russell, thanks for the 10. Appreciate you. If Ryan Day wins 2 more natties, they're going to rename it the Ryan Day Athletic Center. Well, he's going to win at least 4 more natties, if not 5, to surpass Woody. Woody's got 5, so it'll be the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. So I don't think if you get 2 or 3, you're going to surpass Woody. If you get to 5 or 6, then let's talk. But I don't think so. Nevada, Chad Russell asks again, I appreciate you. Thank you for the 10. He says, if Ryan Day wins 2 more natties, are they going to rename it the Ryan Day Athletic Center? What are your thoughts?
Um, yeah, I mean, Ryan's going to go down when he leaves here. He's going to go down. I absolutely believe he's going to win multiple national championships, and obviously there's only one Woody, and that was a different time and a different place. But I think Ryan he's definitely etched himself on the pantheon into the pantheon of greats. And I think when he leaves here, he'll be considered the second best coach to ever have coached at Ohio State behind Woody. And that's saying something considering, Meyer, Tressel, and a lot of other great coaches that have been here. But I really do believe he's going to win multiple ones. And when you win multiple ones, that moves you up the list. Whether they'll change the name, maybe it'll be the Ryan Day like learning annex off of Nevadabuck lacrosse stadium thing or something like that. And that could happen. I'll give Ryan a little piece of my tennis center. Like Ryan, I'll give you a court, Ryan. Come over to
He
my
loves,
place.
I mean, he loves tennis, man. When he called me, he was playing tennis. I could hear the balls bouncing around on the thing.
He's
So,
a,
yeah, he's a tennis
yeah,
playing fiend, and that's why he's ripped up and in great shape. So, I appreciate him, and I think he's doing some great stuff. Nevada, any final thoughts so you can wrap the show up?
No, just I'm all excited about the Shore Standers the jersey retirement ceremony. We're gonna have to get on a plane and fly out there to Colorado for
Oh my
that.
God.
I don't know why stuff like that bugs me, but it just I hate like inauthenticity, and I just think I feel like Travis Hunter is just being robbed. 'Cause Travis Hunter was a truly great, like a phenom, a two-way player in an era where there are just not two-way players. A guy that could have been a first-team All-American on either side of the ball, wins the Heisman, does it all, and then this other jamoke is like kind of jumps on the thing with it. But anyway, no, big day for the Buckeyes. Great wide receiver get. Don't let the TCU decommitment fool you. Don't let the whiteness fool you. Don't let anything else fool you. Big time get for Ohio State. And Ohio State's super excited. Brian Hartline is, and so am I.
The GOAT. So I appreciate you guys being a huge part of what we do. If you guys enjoy our content, please give us a like, click subscribe. Also, click that little alert bell again. Appreciate you guys so much for being a part of what we do. If you guys want to help us out in a huge way, give us a follow on Apple Podcasts, APPLE. Super easy to do. It takes about 8 minutes, or 8 seconds, excuse me. And I think you guys will really enjoy our content. It's free for a limited time, so make sure you guys subscribe now. If you guys subscribe now, it is free forever. So again, thank you guys for what you guys do. As always, shout out where you guys are watching from. Shout out who you guys are watching with. And again, I appreciate our first responders. I got to get back on that, but I appreciate our police officers, our fire department, and everyone that is a first responder that helps us out each and every day. You guys are not forgotten, along with our military members that are across the world. So thank you guys for all that you guys do. So with that being said, thank you so much, Buckeye Nation. And thank you, Scoop family. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Hope you guys have a great rest of your night. Go Bucks.